Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of Campus CEO. Today, I'm joined by Miss Vanessa Kahkesh, the founder of Studentpreneurs, a community built for empowering student entrepreneurs globally. She is a student at UC Berkeley and has experiences in building multiple startups, going through the process of ideation and the growth of an idea, and has worked at the SCET, Berkeley Center for Entrepreneurship, and all things startup, basically. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Sid. It's great to meet you, and thanks for having me on this.
Oh,
Excited to chat.
of course. We are also very excited to chat with you, know about your story, and the wonderful things that you have to share with us and the audience. Well, without further ado, I guess I'll just jump right into it. What is your story? Where did you begin with entrepreneurship and why did you keep going? Was it a book, family members, just maybe the Berkeley environment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big question. I think for me, entrepreneurship started with watching Shark Tank every Friday. I remember I was 12 years old when I first became like obsessed with the show. And I would rush down and always watch like every single pitch. And as I grew older too, I remember I would get like a little notebook, and as the entrepreneurs were like pitching their product or their service, I would like write down notes and like pretend I was a shark. Or they also have Dragon's Den in Canada, so also pretend like I'm a dragon and like try to analyze the entrepreneur, and like I'd be so excited about what they're building. And yeah, I think that was where I really like first developed some interest in entrepreneurship. What does it take to like build a product that can impact people's lives? And so honestly, that show played a really big part in where I found that passion of mine. And I think another thing is, like, beyond that, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So both my parents, they're actually immigrants, and so they have that like immigrant mentality, but they're also successful entrepreneurs. And I think seeing their work ethic and seeing how they've gone on to build their own company, and the success and hard work they've put into what they're doing, like it really inspires me like to this day as well. And I kind of like am influenced to do something else on in my own journey where I can also have a similar impact. And so, yeah, I think that's where the origins of where entrepreneurship in my life came into play. I think when you go to a school like UC Berkeley, you're just surrounded by startups, innovation. You're in the Bay Area, you're in Silicon Valley. And so getting to a place like that was super exciting for me because I actually vividly remember my very first class at UC Berkeley was an entrepreneurship class. And I sat in the front row, and I remember the first lecture, it was all about like Silicon Valley and like what does it take to be an entrepreneur. And I was just so excited. Like I could feel it in my chest. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. So yeah, I don't know. Like UC Berkeley is a great place to be for that. And since that class and since getting there, I've tried to just follow that passion and love I have for entrepreneurship, and continue exploring it.
That truly is an inspiring story. It goes without saying your parents must have a great influence over what you're doing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Could you tell us a little bit more about perhaps the values that they've shared with you and the things they say to you to keep you going on this path?
Hmm. I think my parents like never explicitly told me they were entrepreneurs. In fact, I didn't even know that they were running their own company for a good chunk of my life. I think as a kid, it was such a norm that my parents were running this thing, like this finance company that they now have. And I would go to the office and see them working, like my mom, even to this day, and my dad, they're working very hard on their company. And so I don't think they haven't like told me, you have to be an entrepreneur or you have to go in business. It's just something that I've picked up and something I've seen myself in my own eyes. And I guess when you're a kid, you kind of, you get influenced and shaped by your environment. And so that kind of became the norm for me, like hustling, grinding, working really hard at what you enjoy and what you're passionate about. And so I guess if you really distill the values that they've showed me, it's one of them is like determination and never giving up, like no matter what. As a founder, as a business person, like you will always face challenges and you will always face doubts from everyone. And that's what it takes, because you have to, take a risk to do what you want to do. And so, seeing them go overcome like all the challenges they've been faced with, it kind of shows me that I have to do the same. And I've been able to practice that too with my career in tennis. I think that has also shaped me a lot, going through all the losses and the wins with that. And I think another really key value is probably like connection and like I would say like family slash connection slash like community. Because even though my parents ran this, are like entrepreneurs, they always prioritize family and they always prioritize connection with me and my sister, taking care of us. And always, it was never like the business first, it was us. And I really am grateful that I have such supportive parents who always are there to support me and who I can always ask for help with. Like that is something that I'm truly grateful for, because I know I'm like very privileged to have that. And it also, and it like shows me that, in my life, no matter what I'm doing, it's always important to like remember the people in your life and the people that are really important to you, and to always prioritize continuing to keep connected to them and, share your love for them. Because even though being an entrepreneur and building the next billion-dollar company is an incredible thing, at the end of the day, you never want to forget like where you come from. And I think family plays a really big part in that for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly so inspiring to hear about all these values that you have that are obviously very, very important to you. And you find yourself at the helm of a startup as an entrepreneur that aims to empower other entrepreneurs. So, are these values things that you want to pass on to them? And what is your long-term vision for studentpreneurs?
I do want to be able to ignite that entrepreneurial spirit within other students, because that's what my parents did for me. It's a mindset, really, at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur. And I think that a lot of other kids, perhaps from diverse backgrounds, or, those who might not think that they can be entrepreneurs, like I want them to know that they can, and that, you can build a business and you can find ways to monetize. And it doesn't really matter where you come from. Like it's all, at the end of the day, it's your character, your determination, and your belief in yourself. So that is something I want to pass on with studentpreneurs, and like, help inspire the next generation of young founders, young builders. And even if these student founders that we have in the community don't go on to like continue their venture after, like maybe in like a few years, I think the experience that they'll get just from doing that and just from taking the initiative to start something is invaluable, and it will serve them in the long run. And as for my longer term vision of studentpreneurs, I hope that it can be this global hub that really serves as a community and core resource for student entrepreneurs, no matter where they come from. And also, no matter what age of a student you are, I think even high schoolers deserve to have access to entrepreneurial resources and education. And I think also at the end of the day, I really want to help foster more of a community, both in real life as well, because I think we all know that entrepreneurs have a lonely experience because you're really taking a risk to do something, and sometimes you have to do it alone. But that shouldn't always be the case. You should be able to have people along with you who are perhaps going through the same journey and struggles, and that way you can learn from each other and it's a less lonely path. So I want to find a way to also solve that problem as well through studentpreneurs. So yeah, I think there's a lot of things to explore, and I'm still trying to figure it out and take it step by step.
Well, yeah, all of that sounds great. I mean, obviously you have a long way to go, but with thinking like that and backing from not just your parents, but friends such as Ryusei and just the whole Berkeley ecosystem, I feel like it's a great catalyst for the project that you're building. Something else that I touched upon in my last interview that I tend to ask people who are who have this entrepreneurial mindset is that what do you feel about not having, say, a safety net later on? Like when you graduate, would you be someone who goes all in on your startup or business idea and totally disregards the possibility of working for someone? Or is that something that you still have, on the cards? Perhaps a few years of work experience might be necessary before getting to that eventual, say, startup idea that blows up and helps a bunch of people and gets millions of people around the world to participate.
Hmm. It's a good question. I think a lot of like nowadays, there's a lot of pressure for young people to become immensely successful at an early age. It's the typical drop out of college, build your $1 billion company narrative that we hear. But I personally want to gain more exposure to the world. I want to work in a company for a bit. Like, I don't necessarily know what company or for how long or even what industry, to be honest, but knowing what it takes really to build a company, or actually I don't really know what it takes to build a really big company yet, because you don't know until you try. But I do think that gaining some experience will be helpful for me, and also to when you go out into the real world before making assumptions of what people actually genuinely want, you can maybe get a better idea of what humanity even needs. What are the real pain points that need to be solved, and I might not know all of that yet, and perhaps getting out in the real world, working for a company for a bit could help with that. Another factor I think is very important is timing. And timing is something that can't always be planned for. So a lot of startup founders that I've talked to, it kind of just seemed like the right moment, the right place, the right people, and the right idea. And it kind of just went from there. And again, you don't really know when that's going to happen in your life if you want to be a founder. So I think being open-minded and also seeing what opportunities come up, and if that is earlier than working at a company, maybe I will do that. I don't know. We will see.
I mean, for sure. I do think I've spoken to people about this before, interacted with few MBA graduates, and they mentioned that it is important to get work experience before you make that leap into startups. Of course, I spoke to Rusey about this last time and he disagreed. He obviously has the right to have his opinion and said that his vision long term would be to make a startup that in college reaches a level that's so big that later on he doesn't have to worry about getting a job. I mean, of course, that is the ideal scenario, but I guess safety nets do play an important role in life, not just in terms of getting the experience, but also giving you confidence in yourself almost to then say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, if I can land a job like this, for sure I can make my own firm or startup in this field. right? Uh,
Mhm.
Talking a bit more on the experience front, I know that you've taken classes at the Saturja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
All right. That's Berkeley's hub for startups and business. And you've also worked there. So you have, I think, a diverse range of experiences of basically experiencing innovation and entrepreneurship at Berkeley's hub. Berkeley, of course, being called the hub of entrepreneurship in the Bay Area. No disrespect to Stanford and other universities, but still. So, how was that experience for you? And what do you think universities can do to empower their students to build their own companies and take on such audacious projects, such as the one you're doing yourself?
That's a great question. And it's definitely one I'm still exploring, to be honest, because I always was, like I mentioned originally, like I'd always had this passion for entrepreneurship. And so when I came to Berkeley, yes, I remember I did take classes from the Siddharth Center of Entrepreneurship. And I think immersing myself in that ecosystem was eye-opening because perhaps the biggest thing I got from that experience of taking those classes was meeting the people. Like Ryusei, for example, I met him through the class. And I think the Sacharya Center, what's unique about it is that it attracts a lot of very diverse and very intelligent and interesting people at Berkeley who are all like tied by this common passion for startups or whatever it is, innovation. And so I think that universities have a huge opportunity to continue empowering these student founders and to provide more resources. And also with the thing I'm doing with studentpreneurs and also with my current role at the Sacharya Center is also amplifying the stories of what has already been done with these founders. So I think a lot of young people, maybe freshmen who join Berkeley, they might not even know about all these initiatives that are already happening on campus, run by students. Like a lot of student founders are building very cool things that I think should be covered in media and even news or like journalism. And so I'm trying to find a way to help do that with the marketing there. So it's really exciting because I love being able to talk to founders and share their stories and talk and interview them. And I think that is something that's great because it kind of also builds community. And so yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that can be explored and not only at UC Berkeley, like at other universities as well. And I think as more students start to recognize that they can be founders, perhaps when they see other people that might look like them or come from similar backgrounds as them, they will help accelerate the movement of universities and campuses that can offer those types of opportunities for them to get involved because we're really lucky to be at Berkeley where they already have that and that we're continuing it. But I think if it could be broadened across other schools, that would be awesome as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the value is immense in having a place like this with Archer Center, right? And we also have Berkeley Skydeck, another startup accelerator, uh, empowering students to build their own stuff, right?
Mhm.
And how would you say the teaching is in the courses from the Siddhartha Center? Just it's good enough, or too textbooky to be applied in the real world?
It's really hard for me to comment on that because every class is different. I think with like the topic and what's unique about the Sacharya Center's classes is that they're actually not taught by quote unquote like professors. They are actually like industry leaders or building their own startups or something somewhere along those lines. So it's not very textbooky from my experience. It's more hands-on and experimental you really work with people in some of the classes that I took at least. And I think that's a great thing because a lot of classes might not be applicable to the real world, but from what I've seen, um, you can take some things that are, can be applied as a founder, as even just someone working in tech. So yeah, again, it really varies, I think.
Of course. And I guess one of the biggest advantages of a place like that is the people. Of course, you get to meet people who are like-minded, people who inspire you and, might even work with you. So I guess, yeah, all in all, every university needs one.
Yeah.
And yeah, moving forward, um, to students who are just starting out in entrepreneurship, do you have any pieces of advice or anything that you've learned that you would like to share with them?
I do. I think I have a few things. I think first and foremost, I would really only I would only start something if you deeply are interested in it or you're curious about it. Don't start something for the sake of starting it because everyone else nowadays has a startup. Like it's really not worth it because in the long run, if you've even just taken a look at like entrepreneurship, you'll know that like it's the most common thing to say, oh, like you need to make sure you're passionate about what you're doing. And at the end of the day, it's actually true. Like it's actually facts because if you don't get excited about the thing you're working on, you can fake it for like a month, but when things start to get hard or when you start to face challenges, the only thing that's going to keep you there and keep you going is because you're so passionate about the thing you're doing. And so I think that's really key, first and foremost. Second, I would also, if you're a young student just starting, I would try to connect to other, like, not be afraid to connect to other people who are in the industry or space that you're in. And don't doubt like who you can connect to. You'd be surprised like if you can just craft a really nice cold message, do some research on the person before you email them and be intentional with the way you write your message to them. You could reach anyone nowadays with LinkedIn. So I would do that because it could get you ahead of the game. One connection or knowing one person here or there could open a door up for you down the line or for your business now. And even just getting some advice or insights could be really helpful. So I would take advantage of, connecting with your community, especially if you're at a school like UC Berkeley. And then third thing is hmm probably to continue like to not settle easily, always find ways to like iterate and gain feedback and talk to your customers or talk to the people that you're serving. And you want to be ahead of the game, you want to be ahead of your own game, you don't want to just settle down with what you have and be blinded by getting praised or getting media coverage. A lot of those things could actually be distractions, and so you really want to settle out what are your priorities as a founder. At the end of the day, you're building a business, and so I think if you have your priorities straight and you continue to work at them and to get better every day, even if it's just a little bit, I think you're on the right track. And you'll do great. So yeah, those are just some pieces of advice I have. But again, I think advice is also just, everyone really has their own advice. So you kind of just have to believe in yourself at the end of the day and go with your own gut.
Hmm. Yeah, that's honestly some of the best advice I've ever heard about entrepreneurship and business in general. And I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do have like a few things to ask about what you just said. Do you think money should be a driver when you're doing a startup? Like kids just, I want to make some money, I want to make a project, sell it off. Do you think that should be something that's a part of the thinking process when you're ideating? Because I know you have experience with doing multiple startups and going across multiple different ideas. Was this ever a thought in your mind of, I want to make money with this and not the actual passion project that it was, or the goal of the project?
Personally, I've never thought of money before the idea because I've always been drawn to specific ideas or specific things that I'm genuinely like interested in. And um I do think money will come to you if you really go after what you love and you really work hard and become the best at what you do. Like I do think money will come because I think if you're blinded by money before jumping into building a startup, you could have your intentions in the wrong place and you could kind of be misleading yourself because you want to really be clear like why are you doing the thing you're doing, and if you're chasing money it could be hard because money is going to come when you build something with passion, when you build something that people want. And how are you going to build something that people want if you're only obsessed with the money? I think it's possible, but I don't know if that should be your priority. But then again, I think one piece of advice I got from someone else who is a three-time she sold three startups successfully, and her fourth startup she's running is worth it's a unicorn status. And she told me, and like she told some people, that you should actually go into building your business knowing whether you want it to be acquired. And in that sense, whether you want, to get money from the thing you're building, like at what stage? Like, are you building this for 10 years? Or are you building for 3 years and then you want to get it acquired and you want to exit? So in that approach, I do think it's not bad to think about money because, we have to be practical as students. We have very limited responsibilities. Like we don't have a family to take care of usually. You don't have to pay rent all the time. Like, I don't know, you can crash at your friend's place. You could find a way. And so, with that, we don't have as many things to worry about. But if you're out of college, 27 or 30 years old, you want to start a startup, of course, money is important because you can't really live on the streets, like money is important. But again, it's your approach with it. And I personally believe money will come to you if you continue to do what you love and be smart about it. Like still plant the seed in your head that you want to find a way to monetize what you do, because if you just go into something being so passionate about it but you're clueless about how to make money or how to find ways to monetize, then yeah, maybe you're never going to make money. But at least have that in your head, but don't obsess over it. Obsess over what you love.
Right.
That's my take on it.
So the balance is very important, right? You can't lean too much towards either just driving towards, hey, this is my passion project, I'm gonna do it regardless. And you can't be too much like, hey, I'm just doing this for fun. Because obviously, as a business, has to be profitable, has to be able to make money. But right. That was really good advice though, from the person you met. Do you remember her name by any chance?
Yeah, that was Tennis George.
Uh,
Her company is Trulio.
right. Well, amazing advice from her as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to ask you about was the cold emailing. The way you described it sounds like you have quite some experience with this. Am I right?
I mean, I would say I have cold emailed quite a bit.
Right. So to all aspiring entrepreneurs and viewers, listeners to the show, could you describe maybe a basic template for cold emailing and how you would go about approaching someone who you think could be, you know, extremely insightful for you in your journey?
Yeah, I sure, I can definitely share a few tips that I've learned and that have worked for me. Um, the first thing is really knowing what, like it's even before you write the message, it's knowing what you want, and it's actually the ask. That's like the most important thing because people are very busy. People have hundreds, if not thousands, of messages in their mailbox. LinkedIn messages, whatever you want to call it. Like, there's no room really for your ask. Like, why would I care about what you want me to do, right? It's all about, at the end of the day, you need to make sure what you're asking for is in some way providing value for that person, because that person should want to do the thing that you're asking for. And maybe it's for, like, for example, you asking me to do this interview. I did it because I wanted to give back to the community, or just wanted to I wanted to do it as a friend. And yeah, I'm happy to do this chat. But maybe for another ask, it's because I think you're going to provide me a customer. You know, at the end of the day, you want to be very conscious about who, or about what you're asking about, and why that person should want to accept your request. So that's like the first step. Once you have that clear and it's reasonable for you and for the other party, then it comes to just crafting that message. And the number one thing is do your research. Like, do not go into an interview, do not go into an email without at least giving a quick Google search on who this person is, because it takes you, it's just respect. Because if you show that person in an email with like one sentence that's personalized to them, they appreciate that, because they'll think like, wow, this person actually took the time and the effort to reach out to me. They're just not sending me a mass email. And people hate that. Like, I hate getting a mass, like, or like a marketing email when it's like clearly copy and pasted, you know. So do your research on that person, find a way to, you know, understand who they are and where they come from, and say something personal to them that you can't copy and paste into another email to another person. And yeah, again, like, I think it really comes down to you as a founder taking the initiative to also develop your own style with cold emailing, because you could have a different approach and it could work for you. But those are some of the principles that I definitely stick to and that have worked pretty well for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really useful again. And so something that one of my friends told me, who's a part of a business frat, is just always ask to meet at either lunchtime, dinner time, breakfast, whatever, because that person has to have food during the day. And if you can just have a quick chat with them during that time, it's more convenient for them. Yeah, has this been something that you share in your experience?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, because it's nice to grab a meal with someone rather than just, you know, a Zoom call. Like, meeting up in person for food would be nice too.
I'm about to hit you with a few deep questions right now. So just saying, be prepared.
Okay.
Why do you do what you do? Open-ended. That's all it is.
Um, hmm, that's a good question. And let me think about it for a second.
Take your time.
I think I do things that I do because um I'm genuinely interested in it. You know, I've always been the type of person who's been pretty clear of like what I actually want. And I make sure that I don't do things without a clear intention. And so with all the things that I'm currently working on, even with, you know, continuing my tennis career and playing a lot of tennis, like, I do that because it makes me happy, because I enjoy it. And I also feel like, at least with some of the work I'm doing with entrepreneurship, I'm able to impact others. And it feels great when you're able to, you know, create change or inspire other people. And at the end of the day, um, I think the most, like, one of the ways that I define success is being able to impact other people. And so if I'm able to do that in what I'm doing, then I think I'm happy to do it.
Um, an amazing answer. I'm just gonna pull it back a little bit. Uh, Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic?
Ooh, Federer.
Let's go. Nice, nice. Um, And what do you think about Djokovic breaking his racket? No, I'm kidding. Uh, yeah, it's really good. It's really good answer. If you're interested. Because nowadays, a lot of what entrepreneurship and just people in business have become is for sure for validation. As you mentioned a few minutes ago, people do it because they see other people doing it. Oh, you've got a startup, I should probably get one. It looks good on the resume, makes you more appealing as a person. But yeah, that cannot be someone's calling, right? It cannot be the reason you devote so much of your time. Um, all right, as we're wrapping up the interview, just a few quick questions. Do you have any book recommendations for the people watching?
Yeah, I think one that I really love is um The Alchemist. That was a really good book. Another one, Shoe Dog, 100% recommend Shoe Dog if you're a founder, or even just want to hear a founding story. It was one of the most incredible books that I've read in entrepreneurship.
Really?
And sorry.
First, like, go on.
And the maybe a third one, Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, that's great. What was so appealing about Shoe Dog and looks like Think and Grow Rich for you?
Shoe Dog, it's Phil Knight's story with founding Nike is he really takes you into his shoes. um no, but like he actually does, like with the story. He's an incredible storyteller. The way he writes is I could feel like the imagery so heavily, like you really experience what it takes to build a company like Nike. And you're kind of like, you realize how hard it is. We've only seen the surface layer of Nike at its finishing touch, but the amount of the struggles he went through to get to the stage where it's at now, it's insane. So yeah, that was why I loved that book. And Think and Grow Rich, I think it's a very old, like it's like a more, I would say, like older type of book, like the way it's written, the time it was written, the era and everything. But I think the fundamental takeaway is really about, your mindset and having that desire of achieving a goal and knowing that it really comes down to how you think.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, the mindset shift is all that's required, right? I mean, something that Rivsey also mentioned in his interviews was the difference between a student founder and an actual founder. So I feel like books like that really help you bridge that gap and help you soak in the reality of being someone at the helm of a very big business or something that could potentially be a very big business. What about movies? Anything in particular that stands out to you? It doesn't have to be entrepreneurship related. Could just be a normal
Yeah,
recommendation, you know.
I just watched Mission Impossible and it was awesome. So I highly recommend it. The new one.
Nice, nice. Barbie or Oppenheimer?
I haven't watched either yet, actually. Yeah, I should. I chose Mission Impossible instead of those two. But I think I would, like, from my guess, I would be leaning towards Oppenheimer.
Ah, very cool. Because Berkeley's in it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, we'll definitely check those out, the books and the movies. And I just like to say thank you so much for your time, Vanessa. I know scheduling the interview has been a bit difficult, but we're trying to put everything we can to bring out the best episodes of Campus CEO with the most inspiring people, the ones who we can learn the most from, such as yourself. And uh, is there any last message that you'd like to share with people, any way that they can connect with you if they would like to discuss anything about studentpreneurs or with you personally?
Yeah, no, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show, and for doing this interview. It was great chatting. If you want to connect with me, the best way, for those watching or listening is probably LinkedIn. So yeah, if you just shoot me a message and I'll probably get back to you. And if you're interested in learning more or joining Studentpreneurs, or even just, I don't know, anything other specific things, happy to chat.
All right. Once again, thank you, Vanessa. I'll see you guys in the next episode.